Good evening, boys and girls. And it's the grumpy old man, and it's the day after Christmas. And as you see in the title, new headphone test. I'll tell you what, comfy. Oh my God. It's like having two pillows on my ears. And you talk about the difference in the audio. Now, those other headphones were like 12 or $14 off of eBay. So they did the job. I can't complain about them. But when you're talking professional studio headphones, oh my God. Comparison. Rolls Royce versus Hugo. And for those of you that don't know about what a Hugo is, go look it up. It was the worst car in America. Now, I owned one. I never had a problem with it, but I read where, people were driving along and the shifter came out of the transmission and steering wheels came off. People put turn signals on and smoke poured out of the steering column. I never had a problem with mine. Of course, I didn't have it that long, but I drove it all over the place. Okay. Why is this? There we go. Okay. My cable was caught. These are you'll love this. These are AKG made by Harman Kardon, which Harman is one of the best names in any type of stereo equipment. Back in the 70s, I would go into an audio shop and I could barely afford JVC, which JVC was a good stereo system, but JVC was like the Volkswagen compared to the Rolls-Royce, Harman Kardon. Even today, if you look on eBay or any of the used stereo equipment sites, Harman still sells for big bucks. It really does. And these are made in Austria. Would be nice if they were made here, but some countries just have a knack for a certain item and they perfect that item. And no matter how anybody tries to reverse engineer, they just can't get it right because everybody wants to cheapen things. But this is the I don't know if you can look at that shipping document. If you can make out that language at the bottom, you're better than I am. And I'll tell you what, I really have to hand it to the Postal Service because my buddy dropped these at the post office out in Burbank because he's out visiting his son out in Burbank. Like I said, his son works for a professional production company. He dropped these, he said Friday after lunch. So I'm going to say probably 1:30, 2 o'clock. I don't know whether they had lunch. Their studio is in the area close to the NBC television studios. You know, Everybody rents office space out there, and their studio is in the same complex. I don't know if they ate in the NBC commissary or I'll have to ask my buddy, but he dropped these at the post office Friday. After lunch. They arrived at 4 o'clock today. Now, you also got to take in consideration, Sunday was Christmas. Now, I realize that, the old slogan, the mail must go through, but I'm sure that they were working a skeleton crew throughout the system. But for these to arrive today, then he tells me, I've got another pair coming. I says, I only need one. He says, well, you got 2 studios, right? I says, yeah, but I can unplug them and I told you that his son gave us each a set because they got boxes of them in the storeroom. Well, his son got back several sets of sanitized. Now, these are sent out to a sanitizing company that sanitizes instruments for hospitals because they don't want to take no chances. But there's a lot of times when they do recording in studios, people don't even want the sanitized ones. Well, since a lot of time people don't want the sanitized ones, they have boxes of them. His son says, "Here, see if your buddy wants 2 pair." And I've got another set of these on the way. These were brand frickin' new right in the box. The other ones are like used once and sanitized. Hey, for what these cost, I'll take them because the headphones over in Studio A are the same $15, $20 ones that I got off of eBay. So then he tells me that his studio was experimenting with certain microphones. They were running microphone tests. Now, they do use these Blue Yetis, but when they're doing, professional interviews with, say, movie stars, they're using Sennheisers. You know, Sennheiser microphones are right up there with Harman Kardon stereo systems. Well, they've been doing some production for some of these web bloggers and the bigger ones. You know, the websites that have, you know, 500,000 or more followers. And they've been doing some production work, and they were experimenting with microphones. Well, he said they did some experimentation with the Blue Yeti Snowball because they used them in a group setting, and there were like 10 people around the table, and they had 5 of these because, you know, you're not gonna have 5 Sennheiser microphones out there, so they were experimenting with these. Well, of course, you know, when they contact the, you know, the Blue, uh, distribution company, sales department, you know, for Blue, which is Logitech, you know, they say, "We're studio such and such, you know, out in the NBC complex in Burbank, and, uh, we would like to do some experimentation with some microphones." And he said, "You know, we would like to try some of your snowballs because it's a web blogger website. We're not talking them doing production work for NBC here." Well, I guess Logitech sent them over several of they call that the snowball ice. Sent them over several, and of course, the ones that they sent weren't just plain Jane white, they were the brushed aluminum. So he said, "We've got about 25 of these in the box, never used." And he says, "We're probably never gonna use all these microphones." He says, "You think your buddy would like one?" Well, my friend is like, "Yeah, he'll take anything for free." So, along with the spare set of headphones, I've got a brand new, and I will show it to you, Blue Yeti Snowball Ice Mic, and this is these that they got there are the top of the line because the ones they're using have the spatial adjustment. Like I told you about this one, either head on, 2 people, group of people, or audience. Well, the snowballs are set up with a 3-way switch on the back. You have one person, 2-person, or acoustical instruments. Like if somebody's playing a guitar, you throw it to position 3, and it adjusts the microphone heads as to which ones to use. Because this microphone has 3 separate heads in it. If you were to take this screen off, there are 3 separate microphones inside this one mic. Well, the fancy Blue Yetis that they're the snowballs that they're using have the same thing. Got 3 heads in. So I'm kind of anxious to get that. Plus, I should be able to just plug in and use it because I still can't figure out how to use this one. I can't get it to work on my computer here. Now, evidently, that must be set up. These must be for like laptop or tablet use because there's no plug-in for headsets either. Like these, so I'm kind of anxious to get the fancy schmancy. Plus, uh, it comes with a polished, brushed aluminum shock mount, so you can mount it right. I can mount it right on the arm. So instead of seeing this, you'll see that sphere. So that I'll have the fancy brushed aluminum for Studio B, where in Studio A I have the gold plated. We're not talking real gold plate, but the gold plated. My golden microphone over there. So I hope everybody had a good Christmas. Me, I just potzed around the house all day. At 72, I hate to sound like a grumpy Grinch, but really, in a way, it's just another day. Christmas is for kids. I don't need any gifts because, like I tell Dale, if there is something I need during the year, why should I wait till the end of the year? And that's a sad point, too. 5 days. This year is gone. Where did it? You know, I was talking to my friend the other day, and we were saying, where did the year go? It seemed like it was just New Year's, like 2 weeks ago. And we're going to be in 2024 in 5 days. And no, I don't celebrate New Year's either. That's 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 a holiday for beginners. And with all the car services now, Uber and Lyft, I hope the idiots that are going to try to drink one another under the table are not going to be stupid and try to drive. Younger generation, take it from the grumpy old man. Call a Lyft, call an Uber. Don't try to drive unless you have a designated driver. Don't be stupid. Because 9 times out of 10, the person that you're going to off is someone that's in the right. Because that's usually what happens. The drunk doesn't get a scratch and they off a family. So just a word to the wise for you people for New Year's Eve. If you're going to go party hardy, put a few bucks aside for an Uber or a Lyft, or get a designated driver. It's odd looking at these in the camera. And talk about comfy. Oh my God. Like I say, it's like having 2 pillows on my ears, and I hardly feel them on the top of my head. And this tension band gives just enough for them to hug my ears. Not like those other ones. After a while, God, my ears were hurting. course, you get what you pay for. And I would hate to think what these retail for. I appreciate the gift. Believe me, I'm going to enjoy the hell out of these. If you notice, I changed the background shirt. Chicago Fire Department Bomb Squad. That, along with most of the shirts, has never been worn. I don't want to ruin it. It's kind of neat. The whole thing is, though, and I know there's a reason behind. Well, there's a couple of reasons behind it. I like T-shirts with pockets. Well, they don't put pockets on most T-shirts because, one, it might cost a couple pennies more. Might cost, like 2 cents more per shirt to put a pocket on it. Second of all, not that many smokers anymore. They made T-shirts with pockets for us bozos that, smoke. So we have somewhere to put our cigarettes. I was never one of them to roll a pack up in my sleeve, That same thing. Try finding a long sleeve T-shirt. At my age, I'm always cold. And it's very tough to find long sleeve T-shirts. I do have a place. I've got to go buy some more because the ones I've got are getting worn out. But I do have a place that stocks them all the time. And sometimes I get lucky. They have long sleeve T-shirts with pockets. Matter of fact, about a month before I'm ready, I call the owner and I say, hey, if you've got any long sleeve T-shirts with pockets, I need X number set aside for me, or keep your eye out. I'll be in a month. And the last time I went in, she had a stack and she said, all right, pick out what colors you want. And I picked one of each color and I was happy. But same thing, zip front hoodies. It's almost impossible to find zip front hoodies because most of the websites that I go on, YouTuber websites, they put their website name and everything across the front, rather than a small emblem and put it across the back. And this one here has seen better days. Same thing with my Harley zip front hoodie. That one's seen even better days. That was like the last time I wore it. The girl says to me, where did you find distressed merchandise? And I said, distressed? It's not distressed, sweetheart. It's old. It's worn out. That's like the jeans with the knees missing. And I can't believe people actually go in and pay money for this stuff. I have jeans that there's patches over the holes. These people deliberately buy them with holes. And I read an article recently where there's a couple of clothing importer exporters that they go around to, places like Goodwill and the Salvation Army, and they buy up the distressed jeans, the jeans that they're not gonna sell. People donate clothing, they go through them, they go, "Oh, man, that's" in Japan, the kids clamor for American jeans that are ripped and torn and got holes in them. They pay big money for them. That's like, I was talking with a friend of mine yesterday, not yesterday, Christmas Eve, the 24th, about this. Growing up, and I'm talking, 50s, 60s, this was a number sign. Then, with the inception of touch tone phones, push button phones, this became the pound sign. So, I had to relearn number sign, pound sign. Now it's a hashtag. Who the hell came up with that name? And it has nothing to do with telephones. Hashtag? Number sign, pound sign, hashtag? So does that mean I go into a restaurant and hold this up? I get some hash? Hashtag here. Hashtag. I know, I'm showing my age. That's like all the new terminology. A friend of mine was saying, "Oh, you should see the memes that I found on my cell phone." I said, "Memes? What's a meme?" And then they showed me, and I was like, "Oh my god!" And it, just and then the different apps for your phone. Chat Snap and uh, used to be Tweeter, now it's X. Leave it to Elon Musk and his X. His Tesla Model X, SpaceX. Then he buys Tweeter and it's X. So when somebody was on their cell phone tweeting, now they're Xing. I'm Xing. Xing would be eh. You know, I've got stuff on my cell phone I haven't even attempted to use because I don't know what it all is. I have a hard enough time just with normal things, let alone Chat, Snap, and Tweeter, and pardon me. Then there's this Chat Gypped, GTP, GPG. And I was like one of the first people in this area to have cell phone. The old Motorola brick. I've got it put away right now, but when I needed it to make phone calls. Of course, back in the day, text. There was no such thing as text. God, the screen on it was about the size of a large postage stamp. You were lucky to see the numbers. I was lucky to talk across the street. That's how bad cell phone service was in the beginning, because there were like no towers. I could hardly make a call across the street. The other day, my buddy's daughter was talking to a friend in Germany, on a cell phone. Who would have thought? But tonight was just mainly a test of the new headphones, which I love. God, I could sleep in these things. So I got to thank my buddy and his son, mainly his son, for being so generous. Especially a brand new set. I'd have been happy with the sanitized ones, which I'm going to get a pair of sanitized ones. So I'm going to be double happy because I'm going to have 2 sets. And the brand new Snowball fancy brushed aluminum microphone. God, Grumpy's turning into like a professional studio. I don't know if I can handle this shit. Speaking of studio, I still got to get into Studio A and test those brand new stereo microphones that I've got. I better do that tomorrow. I think tomorrow's broadcast will be from Studio B. A. Uh, I don't even know what the fuck studio I'm in. And with that, I've been yakking for half an hour here and driving people crazy, and they probably clicked me off already. So with that, talk to you tomorrow from Studio A on the stereo microphones.